Hi, I'm Sly Spencer Lee. I'm a co-founder and co-CEO of Emerge. And in under 10 minutes, I'm going to talk about the Metaverse, Web3, leprosy, marine biology, and digital touch. So I'm really stoked about Web3, like most of you, because people are building abilities to put the power back into us, people, and creators. Well, creators are people too, usually. In the Metaverse, I'm really excited because it's going to allow social to be all about presence, not about media, not about ads, but about presence. There's a lot of smart people building the back end of this next paradigm shift to allow creators to monetize like never before, unshackled from really large centralized institutions. But what about creating new ways to express yourself? What happens when you push past the same two senses we've been using for the last 100 years, our eyes and our ears? What are senses even about? Well, besides daily functioning, I think that senses are about emotion. That's the ultimate manifestation of our senses. And I want you to think about an emotion. When is the loneliest you've ever been? But seriously, think about it. When is the loneliest you've ever been? For me, I think it's when I lived in a leprosy colony on Molokai in Hawaii. And it's one of the most remote places in the world. 80 people live in this colony, shut off from the rest of the island by the world's tallest sea cliffs, 3,000 feet high. Jurassic Park 3, the intro was filmed flying through that island. And I was a marine biologist there for the first 3 years of my working life. Completely separate story. The Leprosy Island was so remote that they used it to throw people there to die in the 1800s when that bacterial infection was raging. 8,000 people died in a plot of land that was less than half the size of San Francisco over 200 years. In the 80s, actually in the 60s, when sulfur drugs, antibiotics were invented, leprosy was completely cured. And then it became a national park in the 80s, where I worked as a marine biologist. During the daytime, I would do marine biology work underwater. During the nights, I would hang out with former leprosy patients that were still alive. Now, leprosy is a really cruel disease because, well, not only are you cut off from your friends and family, you're stigmatized, but you lose your sense of touch. All of your necrotic, all of your tissues that are soft erode, and you can no longer feel anymore. It's a really cruel disease when you're not able to feel your physical world. It inhibits your ability to feel emotions even. And during those 3 years, I found myself lacking in the ability to feel as well, not because I had leprosy, but because I was separated by thousands of miles by my friends and family. And during that time, I became incredibly lonely. I felt just so cheated by using this to communicate with my grandma who has Parkinson's still, my family, my brothers, my loved ones. I knew at that moment that I knew what I wanted to build and what I wanted to do for the next few decades, which was to build something meaningful, to try to move past this. In 2015, I co-created a project backed by Google X and NASA that ended up becoming a venture-backed company called Emerge. And at Emerge, we're on a mission to create a future where distance and time don't stand in the way of feeling present. Think about the last 200 years. The telegraph was invented in 1830. We then invented real-time audio, late 1800s. Then real-time audio visual, mid-1900s. And then since then, we've been doing the same thing, just a little better, a little faster, a little higher resolution. At Emerge, we think the next meaningful step forward in digital interactions will happen with the most underrated sense, but most powerful and the most emotive. It's our sense of touch. Touch grounds us in reality. I want you to do something. Close your eyes. Pretend you can't feel the seat that you're in. Pretend you can't feel your feet and the floor or your shoes. What are you now? Where are you? Well, you're still conscious, but you don't know where you are. Open your eyes. You can feel once again. Touch makes us feel present in this physical space. Sharing space with one another, giving someone a hug. Touch creates presence and realities. Now, what I'm saying is not new. Since 1977, they've been haptic gloves, haptic suits. Haptics has been around for a long time. I really don't like that word. because I think the question has been wrong. We are not trying to replicate reality one for one. We're not trying to replicate the feeling of a rock in VR or a bullet, hitting me in VR, a slap in the face, or the feeling of my jacket. We're trying to use touch as a conduit for emotion. When you think like that, you can go much farther. When you think like that, we ended up creating a device. Now, fast forward 6 years and $30 million later, we've created a device that allows you to physically feel something that's not there without a wearable. No gloves, no suits, with your bare hands. Here's a picture of it right here. I had to do some guerrilla marketing. So this device uses sound waves. And the same way that if you stand in front of a speaker this week, or a subwoofer, you can feel that energy on your chest. Sound is a mechanical wave, so you can feel that energy. We do the same thing at higher pressure with a bunch of nerdy scientists, and we can sculpt the sound that you can physically feel. We're creating force fields, literally force fields that you can feel. Now, we're really excited because with everything happening now within the metaverse, with Web3, with even VR, this wasn't here 6 years ago when we started the company. We've been slowly and quietly building for this moment in time. And we're really excited that you can demo this product today at South by Southwest. We have a demo that you can sign up for here. There's very few slots available, but if you scan this tiny QR code, we can get one for you. And if you come demo, or if you Google emerge.io, you can actually be one of the first people to buy a device. Only a few hundred of these devices will go out this year. We're running a limited batch. We're really interested in building a very early adopter community that is willing to help us build and iterate on the product. This is a very new paradigm shift. Tactile NFTs, shaping music with your hands, recreating a moment or reliving a memory physically, those are all table stakes. What I'm really excited about is partnering with the right creators to help us imagine what I cannot even express today. But what I do know is that we're not recreating one of our 5 senses. We're creating a 6th sense, a sense all around presence and human perception and what happens when you mix different possibilities that you can't do in the physical world, but you can in the virtual one. In a word, I would say what we're doing is actually synesthesia. And we're really interested in crossing these different boundaries and creating something new. So if what I said to you today resonates with you, please come visit us. Please join our journey. Thank you.
Okay, that was really very moving and a hard one to follow up. But my name is Gabo Arora, and I'm the CEO of Lightshed.io, and I have used every emerging kind of technology since 2014 and tried to interpret it for things that matter, things that have some meaning. And I remember when I started doing VR in 2014, I made a short film called Clouds Over Sidra. And I was told that VR was not for such things. VR was for gaming and pornography. And that trying to give people an empathetic tour of a refugee camp was going to be, a real downer. That we shouldn't do things like that. But we've proven everybody wrong, and it is so much more, and it's led to a burgeoning nonfiction documentary scene within immersive media, and it's incredible. So you're here for blockchain, right? And NFT stuff, and this is my first project here. It's called Paradise. It's a AI-powered immersive audio app that's designed for couples to explore why we stay together or fall apart. So, a little bit of caution, but it's provocative and it's very, very amazing. And you can do it and you can Also, download the app and book tickets to do it back at home if you want. But it's good if you can get to do it here. So we wanted to, I was told, they're like, let's make some NFTs, you know, like, let's do it. And I just thought, what kind of stupid opportunism? Like, why would I do something like that, you know? That's how I was thinking about it until I just said, wait a minute, let me do a little bit of research. And I said, oh, what's this? Oh, blockchain oracle. Like, incredible what you can do to bring outside sort of connection to something inside, right? These are very beautiful, deep concepts. And at some point I said, what if we just took our main poster image and it degrades at a rate of every 20 minutes, or sorry, every minute, 20 people are assaulted by intimate partners. And it's been really increasing with the pandemic, and it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about. But what if you bought this NFT and it degrades at like a way that we all degrade if we allow this to happen? And the only way to kind of regenerate it is that you have to have someone else embed value in it that can then resell it and help an organization. You know, a lot of nonprofits, they compete with each other for the same pool of money, right? They're not incentivized to work together, which is not good. You know, it's a big challenge in charity that you're giving to different people that are not strategically coordinated. But what if you created a way that if they did an NFT together, that in some ways when it resold they became more wealthy, or they understood that it's not just about money, that it's a token, it's a community, that the medium is the crowd, you know? And what you can do to like shape behavior and create community and redo values that suck right now, you know? This is like the only chance, and it's a beautiful thing. And so I hope you can support it. We have NFTs also in the marketplace, and if you do get those, they are going to be in a bigger NFT we are releasing probably mid-April, early May, but you can be a part of the more generative multiplayer interactive one through your kind of tokens and your embedding value and shifting how it generates or regenerates based on the data that is quite still alarming. So, you know, other ideas is that, you know, it could be a model where organizations are trying to just put data into the blockchain and other artists can interpret that and use that as another way, you know? It's endless. These are just two kind of okay ideas, but there's going to be so much more, and I'm just so excited, and I thank your support and the opportunity to talk with you here. Thank you.
Excuse me. Excuse me. All right. Hi, everybody. So I have a little tickle in my throat from my sinuses. I just landed, so I'm going to keep it very casual with a cup of tea. Hi. I see some familiar faces here. So my name is Yasmin Elayat, and I am the co-founder and chief innovation officer at Scatter. We're a Brooklyn-based award-winning creative company, and we are one of the market leaders in volumetric video. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, the metaverse and what we will be doing in the metaverse. We're going to be moving and exploring navigating these very spatial worlds, and we're kind of going to be similar to our physical worlds. We're going to be building community. We're going to be working and, you know, connecting with others and collaborating, shopping, and so forth. And in this spatial web, we're going to need a way for our own digital bodies to be able to be represented and exist in these 3D environments. So the way we think about it is one of the biggest design problems of the metaverse is going to be how are you represented and how do you appear in these spatial worlds. It needs to be a portable and a persistent digital identity. And obviously today there's a lot of ways to create 3D avatars and characters, but we think that a lot of them are very cartoon-like, and they will not be suitable for a lot of different use cases, especially critical use cases in this future world. And so we believe it is going to be really important to have human authenticity and human connection. And our vision at Scatter is that we want to bring authentic human likeness into the metaverse. And the way that we believe that we're going to do that, or the way that we believe that you can bring authentic human likeness into the metaverse, is through what we call volumetric video holograms. And essentially, the way we think about that is you're bringing real person interactions into 3D environments. And the way we do so is, based on this tool that we've been spending a decade or over a decade working on called DepthKit, which is the most widely used volumetric video solution in the world right now. And the way DepthKit works is it's a software solution that uses off-the-shelf hardware and depth sensors to create volumetric video holograms. And so right now, you can imagine, and it's possible today using DepthKit, that you can beam yourself as a hologram into Metaverse. So a little bit of background about myself is I'm an artist and a storyteller and a technologist. And what interested me in the beginning with volumetric video, or what drew me into this space, was that I wanted to create immersive films for the XR space. And the kinds of stories that I wanted to tell are real-world stories. They're important topics and stories that are relevant to us today. So things like cyber warfare and the impact of cyber warfare on our backyard, to racial justice and how the legacy of US history still shapes our lives today. And basically, these are real issues. They're real stories, and they're told by real people, and they're real places. And so I needed a way to be able to capture the world as it is in 3D for immersive medium. And so, like myself, the rest of the Scatter founding team are artists and technologists. We're actually all hybrids. And the core of our ethos is that art drives innovation. It's actually how we work. And so what that means is to achieve our creative vision and to tell the stories that we want to tell, we actually build the tools that didn't exist. So the way we actually built DepthKit is that we had stories and films we wanted to make, and the tools didn't exist at the time, and so we built the tools as we made our films. And what's really interesting about volumetric films and exploring human presence in them is the stories are very impactful. And the reason being is you have this authentic layer with the person that you're if you're imagining yourself in a VR headset, there's an authenticity to the way the person is sharing their stories with you, how you're connecting with them, with their real expressions and their mannerism. This is a 3D person as they are. And so one thing that was really interesting for us was last year during the pandemic, I mean, not last year, 2020. Now it's 2 years ago. During the start of the pandemic, everyone here in this room, we all had a very collective experience, right? All of a sudden, our entire lives went online, and it was a virtual. So everything we used to do, like social interactions and work and collaborations, and also life events like weddings and birthdays, it all became mediated through digital tools. And at Scatter, our team was really missing our connection with our teammates, but they're also missing the connection with the larger community. And we tried to do a bunch of things during the pandemic. We would join each other in these existing 3D social gaming environments, and even though it was more fun and more immersive than a Zoom, it still was missing something for us. And what that thing was, we felt that we were missing a deeper connection with each other. And so we started to prototype that summer of 2020. And we wanted to build a proof of concept of what we wanted to experience in the metaverse. We were like, what do we feel is missing in our experiences, and what can we build as a proof of concept? And like I shared in our origin story, how we even built our tool DepthKit was this way, that art drives innovation. We have a creative idea, so let's build it. Let's build the tools. So what we did is we created this proof of concept where 2 of our teammates were holograms. They were each in their own remote houses. They were live streaming, so in real time 3D being captured, and they're communicating in these 3D worlds. And we created 3D environments of their living rooms. And the rest of us, so the rest of our team, were guests in these volumetric living rooms or volumetric homes. So I was there in Tim's living room, sitting next to Tim, having an experience like it was, I was there before the pandemic. And it was really powerful, especially in a moment where we felt that we were so isolated from each other. And so during this prototyping process, we uncovered what we realized was missing for us in all these social 3D environments. And that was what I said at the beginning of this talk, which is human likeness and human authenticity. And so that's why it feels just so inevitable and so important moving forward in the metaverse. And so one thing is, obviously all of you are on Facebook or Meta, and a lot of the big players out there are taking a stab at what human representation is going to look like in the spatial web. And as I said already, a lot of it is cartoon-like characters. However, there is a necessity to have an ecosystem of different types of avatars, and that makes sense because there's going to be different types of applications and different use cases. However, we still believe there's going to be, as I said, a need and nothing that can replace authentic human presence. And I want to make sure to underscore that just because I'm talking about holograms, it does not mean this has to be photoreal. Not at all. We're not building a metaverse that's based on real-world rules, and so we don't have to play by those rules. And so it was very important to us as we build these tools that we actually build tools that are about empowering self-expression and a creative expression. And so we can augment our holograms, and you can add any type of visual effects you want and choose how you want to be represented and how you want to look in the metaverse. So I'm going to leave you with this idea that we're thinking about, which is what we think our future and this kind of future vision for what holograms and human identity would look like in Web3. And that would be that your hologram is going to act as your passport to the metaverse. And so what I mean by that is we'll need a way to have an authenticated system built on some type of blockchain to, built on your identity so that you're able to move in and out of these interoperable worlds. And this is not a very far future. It's actually quite near. And the reason is the technology to do this is here today, the 3D worlds that are existing and growing, and the devices today, such as iPhones, are capable of doing this right now. But the reason we're not quite there yet is because we're missing this key piece of the puzzle. And what that is, it's a very, very hard technical problem to solve. And it's one that we've been working on for a long time. And that is, volumetric video. Currently in the landscape, the way volumetric video, stages and setups, they cost upwards from, over $1 million to set up. Some of them cost tens of thousands of dollars for a minute of content. Obviously, that's not scalable. That's not a way for you to appear as yourself in the metaverse. And so what we've been doing and what we've been dedicating all our, this last 5 years, 6 years has been on how do we reduce the need from 100 cameras to just a few sensors. And that's what we've done. It's possible today to create compelling holograms with just 5 or less sensors. And so for this passport to the metaverse idea to become a reality, we need to lower the barrier of entry even further. And so to do that, what we have to do is actually enable the 3 billion devices we all have in our pockets to be able to capture your holograms. And so that way that everyone can transport as yourself into the spatial web. And using hardware you already own. And so that would basically build the future, a near future that I'm saying is quite near, where we can bring authentic human presence to everyone, and we can enable a more human and connected metaverse. So thank you so much.
All right, on. Oh, I'm already on. Shit. Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I'm Sutu. I'm an Australian artist, and I'm going to try and cover my last 18 months of crypto in 6 minutes. So December 2020, I did my first NFT on the Ethereum blockchain, and that was kind of a blast. Did pretty well. I thought this is a revolution we're witnessing in a new digital economy for digital art. I got very excited about it, and then this big announcement came out. There was a big BBC articles talking about the environmental impact of NFTs and this type of thing, and then I had one of my fans left a comment on my Twitter saying, "I'm not going to follow you anymore, you're destroying the planet with your art," and all this stuff, and I was like, whoa, 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 what's going on? I had to kind of get up to speed with that whole narrative. So I held some Twitter conversations and Clubhouse conversations, invited NFT platform owners and environmentalists and different blockchain enthusiasts and other artists to sort of get up to speed what that whole story was all about. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but at the time, the BBC was talking about the mining of Bitcoin being the producing the same amount of carbon emissions as like the whole of Argentina, which is kind of mind-boggling to think about. So the result of all these conversations that we had was that, you know, some of the blockchains use a lot of energy and then others don't. I joined a movement of artists to migrate onto one of the blockchains that don't. We joined the proof of stake blockchain called Tezos. And in a period of 6 months, the artist movement migrated about 20,000 artists onto this NFT platform, which was really obscure, called Hic et Nunc. It's a tongue twister, but try to wrap it around. It means here and now in Latin. And through that sort of migration, I got to meet a lot of the community, and I learned also about gas fees. Gas fees is when you make a transaction on the blockchain, you have to pay a fee. And the different blockchains, because they can only handle so many transactions at a time, a gas fee is like putting on the gas to try to put your transaction at the front of the line, but that can cost a bit of money. And on Ethereum, it can cost anywhere between like $5 to up to $300, depending on the amount of traffic at the time. Imagine you go to play for something with your credit card, and they say, oh, the fee today is 140 bucks. I remember talking to some artists from like South America or from Southeast Asia, and they were just like, this is fucking crazy, like we can't participate in this. This is like the monthly salary for us artists. And, you know, immediately it cancelled out half of the world from even participating in the NFT scene just because they couldn't even pay the gas fees. And think about that, like you pay the gas fee, but it doesn't mean you sell your actual art. So it's like, suddenly the importance of, and the Tezos blockchain, a gas fee costs pretty consistently anywhere between 0.001 cents to 30 cents. So it suddenly opened up the NFT space to the rest of the world, which is super important. And through that migration and through meeting all these artists, I started collecting a lot of artists' work from all over the world. I'm just absolutely in love with the illustrations coming out of Indonesia right now. It's like so many kick-ass illustrators. Every country brings their own culture of art. It's not just like the sort of Western-centric focus of art that we see these days. I'm an artist myself, so I was like taking a lot of inspiration from this. But through those connections, I thought like this is a real moment that we're having. And I curated this book, which is an augmented reality art book. But when you hold your phone over the book, you see the pages come to life with AR or with AR animation. And then you can also tap on that AR animation to collect the artist's artwork as an NFT. So that was the first of its kind of bridge between the analog world and the digital world, also embracing Web3 technology. And for me personally, as an artist, that allowed me to create the infrastructure to then start experimenting more with Web3. So the big buzzword right now is obviously Metaverse. Everyone's trying to figure out, you know, this concept of the Metaverse, how we can collect like art as an NFT, for example, and then maybe take it into another virtual environment, or take it into our favorite video game or our favorite online social space and stuff like this. The concept of a metaverse is actually like a programmer's nightmare. I'm sure any programmer out there is thinking like compatibility, interpretability, all this shit is really hard. But that's what we're trying to figure out at the moment. For me personally, I've been experimenting with the Sutu-verse. Very humble, I know. And it's within my own sort of platform. I run an augmented reality company. So people can collect my NFT art that's on the Tezos blockchain. They can then connect their Tezos wallet with my augmented reality app, and then they can put my art up in the physical reality as AR. More recently, just last week actually, I just finished my first demo of, well, let's back up a second. Just towards the end of last year, I did a generative art project called Neons, where I generated like 10,000 avatars. And because I run a software company, we created our own tool where I created like 180 sort of traits that then get mixed and matched like an exquisite corpse to generate these avatars, right? And that allowed me, I could have generated like 1 million, but I sort of capped it down to 10,000. And thankfully, like the community that I formed over the last 18 months on Tezos was super supportive, and we sold out of those 10,000 in about 30 minutes, which blew my mind and made me shed a little tear. But since doing that, it was kind of like I was creating a community around my artwork, which was super exciting for me. And then I wanted to, with that project, I presented a bit of a roadmap for my ideas for how I wanted to evolve on this concept of the metaverse. It's like, how can we take these artworks that you've created to unlock new experiences for you all? You know, that's what I want to see happen. So the first thing that I did was allow all those people that collected my neons artworks as these sort of digital avatars, and they were able to connect to my augmented reality app, and they could put their neons up in the real world like neon signs. And we use like the surface tracking to allow the light from the neons to shine the light onto the walls and on people walking past, which would be really great if we had a visual of that right now. But anyway, you're just going to have to use your imaginations. The second step was to then, I created 3D assets of all of these identities, and now I've got an app. The app actually loads in their 3D neons avatars as face filters on their face. And I've got it working on my mobile phone in God mode at the moment, so I can scroll through all 10,000 different avatars on my face, which kind of blows my mind that our mobile phones have come this far where we can actually load in 10,000 avatars instantly. But there's a lot of promise and potential there for Web3. You know, how can we create these experiences that load quickly, allow us to seamlessly transition from one space to the other? The next thing that I'm working on is a WebGL Sutuverse, where you'll be able to sync your wallet on a browser to enter into like a 3D game world. And in that scenario, you'll see your full body 3D neons avatar. If you own multiple, you'll be able to toggle between multiple ones at any time. And based on the different characteristics of your avatar, mine were all cyberpunk, like I'm a very cyberpunk futurist kind of guy. So mine were very cyberpunk themed avatars. So if you've got like a gas mask, or your avatar has a gas mask, then maybe you're running through this futuristic world and you hit a patch of like radioactive gas. If you're wearing the gas mask, then you'll be fine, but if you're not, then you might slow down to half the speed or something. Or if you've got VR goggles, then you know, maybe you can see in the dark, or you can see hidden dimensions and shit like that. So that's why I'm experimenting with the characteristics of your avatars can also impact the type of gameplay. Which is, you know, to be honest, it's also a way that I can kind of create a situation where people might want to collect more of those avatars, so they have more access. So, you know, there's a business side of it as well, but I'm trying to make it as fun as possible. And yeah, I sort of feel like there's a lot of potential there. And I think, like, I'm not sure how much time I have, but just as a bit of a background from my sort of experience over the last sort of 15 years, I've kind of been dabbling with different types of new media. Started off with interactive web comics, telling stories, then augmented reality comics, and then virtual reality stories. And the reason I bring that up is that I'm very interested in the storytelling possibilities and the world-building possibilities. And the thing is, when you start to involve a community of a couple of thousand people, which could potentially grow, in this case, up to like 10,000 people, you're starting to build a world together. And this is the real challenge for me. I've done projects where I've collaborated with a team of like 40 to 50 people, but not on this kind of scale of, you know, tens of thousands or something like that. And it's exciting, you know. It's like I still want to control the narrative a bit. Like, it's like if you were to come up with Star Wars, you set the sort of the universe, where it's set, what are the laws of that universe, what is like Jedi mind tricks and all that kind of shit. You establish those rules, but then you kind of give the community some room to move within that sort of governing narrative. So I'm starting to figure out ways that I can put that governing narrative into the blockchain as well, and then creating more tools to allow my community to feed into that pipeline and help me kind of collaborate this on this world together. And that's about it, I'd say.